Hello, everyone. Mrs. Thorson again for APECON. Today, we're going to be talking about what causes shifts in supply. This is going to be over Chapter 4, Section 4. Now, as I taught you with demand, things other than price can shift demand, can change people's demand. The same thing happens with supply. Things other than price can shift the demand curve. Now, the supply curve is showing solely the relationship between the quantity supplied and the price of a business's product. In this case, other things that have nothing to do with the price of that product. We've used lattes in the past. Things that have nothing to do with the price of a latte can make a supply change. And when that happens, the entire curve is going to shift. So, the first thing, and we have an acronym for this. Just like I said, it was TOIS for demand. It's TIES for supply. So let's go through those. First one, the T is technology. Technology determines how much inputs are required to produce a unit of output. So the more technology you have, think about like Henry Ford's assembly line. That new version of technology was able to make the Model T just get mass produced. And that had nothing to do with the price of cars. It had everything to do with the technology to build those. So that made the entire curve shift. And that will make it shift to the right. So an increase in supply or an increase in demand, either one, the entire curve shifts to, let's see, for you guys, the right? Yeah, the right. Okay. This is what it would look like. So let's look at something else. Suppose the price of milk falls. This is input costs. It costs, this is the I in ties. So when you own a business, you have to pay to make those products. It's the factors of production, the land, labor, capital. And you are looking at those products and how they can affect how much you supply as a business owner. So you own the latte company, you own Starbucks, and let's say that the price of milk falls. Well, that's an input in your latte. And when that falls, at each price, the quantity of supply will increase because when something is cheaper for you to make, you're going to make more of it. And that has nothing to do with the price of lattes. It had to do with the price of your factors of production, the input prices. Okay. And that's what a shift to the right would look like. Now, another one, examples, like I said, land, labor, capital. Labor would be the wages. The prices of raw materials would be the land. And a fall in those prices makes it so that you would make more profit at each individual product you make, the output at each output price. And so, of course, they would want to make more because you can make it for cheaper because the price of those inputs fell. Therefore, you would want to make more of that product. All right, expectations. Here's an example. Events in the Middle East led to expectations of higher oil prices. There we go. In response, owners of Texas oil field reduced the supply now to save some inventory to sell at a lower price. So what they can do is they see something happen, a supplier sees something happen, and they expect that they could get higher prices later. So they might hold on to it, and that would lower the supply. That would decrease the supply, and that would shift to the left. It has nothing to do with the price of oil. It has to do with, I expect I can get a better price for this later. I'll hold on to it now. Similar to this, if you guys ever like go by grain bins, they have them like right when you drive into Newark. Farmers go and drop off grain there. And if they see that prices are high, they see that, okay, I can get a really good price for my corn now, the high price for my corn now. I'm going to increase the supply on the market of corn. So you're flooding the market with corn. You're increasing the supply of corn because you expect these high prices won't necessarily stay around forever. So you want to do that. Or let's look at the opposite. Let's say that you see corn prices are really low right now, but you expect them in about 6 months to be high. As a farmer, you're going to hoard it in your grain bins at your farm. And that means the market doesn't have that supply on there. So that decreases the supply of corn. It keeps it off of the market because the farmers are hoarding it until they expect a better price that they can get later for it. All right. So in general, sellers may adjust supply when their expectations of future prices change. as long as it's not perishable. If it's like apples or bananas, you can't do that. Grain, you can, but apples, bananas, stuff like that, you can't do that with because they will get gross. And then the last one. So we've got technology, input prices, expectation, and S. So that's the S in ties is size of market. An increase in the number of sellers will, of course, increase the number of quantities supplied at each price, and vice versa. So when there's more sellers in a market, then the supply curve will shift to the left, because if there's more suppliers, there's more supply. That has nothing to do with the price. It just means that maybe a couple more people opened a latte business, a coffee shop, and therefore there's more lattes out there to buy. So just to give you an idea about all of this, when it comes to the curve, let me pause it for just a second. I'll draw you one of my handy dandy technologically advanced graphs. Here we go. So looking at this, I'm going to show you all the different things you can do with supply. If the variable that changes in a situation, like if there's a variable that changes in the market for latte and the variable that changes is price, which can be measured right here, then it's just a shift on the curve. Since we can measure it, it just moves from one point to the other, okay? Now, hang on. There we go. Let's look at ties, okay? If it's any of those four things, if it's technology, input costs, expectations, or the size of market, if any of those four things, those four variables change, then it's going to be in a shift of the entire curve. You can see if it's a shift on the red line, that means that it's decreasing. And if it's a shift to the green line, that means that the supply is increasing. That's when something changes. The market of lattes, for instance, that has nothing to do with the actual price of lattes. We can't measure technology over here. We're not measuring input costs. We're not measuring expectations or size of market over here. So since we're not measuring that over here, it's not a movement on the line that we can use as data to measure that. So it'll be an entire shift, whether it's a shift to the left, which is a decrease, or a shift to the right, which is an increase. Okay, that's it for today. And then next time we're going to combine supply and demand and see how that works together. I will talk to you later.